inevitable. In any business, you're going to have liabilities and risks that are involved with that business. We know that, especially in the world of valet parking. That's all that we have. That's actually our biggest expense, is liability and risks through insurance and claims that we pay out on a weekly/monthly basis. So when I got into this business, I knew that would probably be the hardest part of this industry. Well, some weeks are better than others. Sometimes I just get to the point where I just absolutely cannot believe what these guys have gotten into, especially if it's avoidable. So this is the next 10 stories of dumbass accidents that could have been avoided by my valets. The first accident came, and I'm not going to use the valet's name, he's actually still working with us today, but this was pretty bonehead. He was rushing pretty bad on a given night at this restaurant, and he let the other valet go. And what I mean by that is, valets are very funny. They all want to maximize money. So when they work, they try to cut the other valet and say, hey, do you want to leave early? Do you want to leave early? So they end up leaving early. That way, the other one can make more money, and this one wants to go out with his friends, go drink, party, or whatever the case is. I don't like it. In fact, I put a rule in place. If you're going to cut, let me know so I can approve it. Because sometimes I know things they might not know, which is there's an additional party coming or something of that nature. So I get really upset when they decide to leave and not really tell me about it. But anyway, on this one day, the valet cut the second valet, and he got a little bit of a rush. And the funny thing is, he didn't tell me. Because if he told me, I could swing another valet over from a nearby restaurant. But he didn't do this. So what happened, he parked this car. I think it was a 09 or 2010 Toyota 4Runner. And he didn't lock it. So by him not locking it, that opens up our exposure, our liability if something happens to this vehicle. So inevitably, I get a phone call from the customer the next day, and he says, my car was ransacked, they went through and they stole some stuff out of my gun case. And whenever I hear gun cases, I go crazy because there's huge, even heightened liability when they steal a gun or anything associated to it. So I asked him to send me pictures, and I received pictures that he had a gun case in the back seat that was tethered to the bottom of the seat so nobody can steal it. And someone had enough time to pry it open only to realize the gun was never in there. I think he had maybe a magazine, gun clip magazine, but the gun was on his person, so we were lucky there. They also went through and did some other damages on some other things, but regardless, nothing majorly was stolen, but his car was ransacked. So what do? I go back to the original valet. Hey, so-and-so, do you know anything about this car? He says papers were moved around in this car. And the valet told me, yeah, I got in a car and I noticed there were papers scattered on the seat, so he just grabbed all the papers and threw them in the center console. He didn't know where they came from, but he didn't think that maybe the car got tampered with. He didn't look around, he just rushed to bring the car back up to the front. Well, the car had been broken into, and the person had been in a car for an amount of time that they were able to pry open this gun box. That had to take at least 5 to 10 minutes with screwdrivers and everything like that. We were lucky. Nothing was stolen out of the gun case, meaning a gun, so we were good there. But we did have to replace the gun case, which was about $99, and then I think we had to replace the clip, which is about another $30. But this valet should have known better. That was just a bonehead move. Could have been prevented if he locked the vehicle. The next complaint we get kind of seasonally. And what I mean by that, there was a case where the valet decided to sit in a car, and I'm guilty of it also. If it's freezing cold outside and you get in a car and you're like, oh, it's so warm and toasty in here, and that happens. But this valet decided to sit in a car for an extended period of time, and it had to be at least 10 to 20 minutes. And at this one account that we had, this lady called to complain because the valet had run the gas out, which I really don't know how she would know if there's less gas after 20 or 30 minutes. But number two, the heat was turned all the way up. Now this lady was, going through menopause, so she was having hot flashes. So she says the last thing I ever do is turn the heat on because she's always hot-blooded anyway when she's walking around the house or around the buildings or wherever we are those days. So we explained that we're very sorry, and then she noticed also he even had the nerve to pull her cell phone charger out and plug his cell phone in. So I had zero justification on this. I called this valet and asked him, what in the world were you doing? Were you sitting in this person's car? And he said, absolutely I was. This was one of our valets who happens to Uber to work. I tell you, Uber's not good, but he Ubered to work, and when it got really cold and really freezing, he didn't want to go inside and sit in the lobby, so he just sat in this person's car. So yes, it is wrong. We're not supposed to do that. And in that case, we can't really do anything. I did actually take that valet off that lot, move him to another lot, but this is one of those bonehead things that you cannot sit in someone's car and have their radio going, turn the heat on, and plug in your cell phone. Things like that just don't work. Plus, if it was me personally, I wouldn't want it either. So that was one of those second bonehead move. The third one we had, this is again a valet that works with us, and this was a true accident. I really believe the guy, and he was trying to be nice and overly do his duties, but what happened, this valet drove a Ford Excursion, one of the big ass SUVs that they had for the longest time, and it had a little U-Haul trailer on it. And whenever there's a trailer or anything like that involved, we shouldn't drive it, unless you're really skilled on doing so. So it was probably a 6x10 trailer, and he pulled it behind, but when he tried to back it up, the trailer, they call it jackknifed, and hit the back fender. So he did quite a bit of damage. And this guy was upset, but understandable, and he said, hey, if he didn't know how to drive the car, he should have just said so. My theory is, why would you valet park your car with the trailer attached to it, knowing that 9 times out of 10 they may not know how to drive it? But anyway, the valet doesn't get into too much trouble. Just tell them if that happens in the future, please don't drive these vehicles. Let them park themselves. Guide them to a parking space or something like that. But that was a major one right there. The next one was actually pretty good. I actually laughed about this one. The valet got in a car, a customer came in, it was a Jeep Wrangler, and it has a big wheel on the back. And little did he know, when the cars will pull in, he backed up and he was getting ready to pull off, but when he backed up, he backed into and basically over a Mazda Miata. He didn't realize, while he was sitting there getting in the car, getting adjusted, a little Mazda Miata pulled in behind him, and when he looked out the back window, he couldn't see it because all he saw was a round tire, and he couldn't see the Miata behind him. So he ran over the hood of the Miata, and that was not good. The Jeep was easy. It had a bumper scratch, and I think the tire absorbed most of the damage, but the Miata took a big hit. It hit the front bumper, hit the hood, and I think it hit the headlight also. So that wasn't pretty good for us, but it was almost understandable. But what sucked was the customer was in the car, the Miata, that is. And whenever there's a customer in a car and there's a car accident, obviously physical damages can happen to the cars, but how about physical damages to the body? Luckily, she didn't say anything. She just jarred the car a little bit, but she didn't really get too testy with what was going on. We got the car fixed, and honestly, this was a little bit ago, so I don't remember the cost, but it couldn't have been any more than a couple of $1,000s, but we definitely got that car fixed, and she was happy after everything was said and done. We mentioned this story before on another channel, and maybe the VinWiki channel, but this was a time where a lady came in, and it was her birthday, and she got a brand new Honda Pilot. The same time the valet parked, I think it was a Lexus SUV, one of the medium or large size SUVs, and valet was rushing. And what he did, he didn't put the car in gear when he... Let me back up some, I apologize. The parking spaces, a lot of times we have orange cones in front of them. So the valet will pull up the car, get out the car, move the orange cone so we can back up into it. The reason we do that, because a lot of times people will try to take the valet spaces if they see them, they're empty, not realizing they're valet spaces for that exact reason. So the valet pulls up, gets out of the car, moves the cone, but while he's moving the cone, he realizes he doesn't put it in park, he leaves it in reverse. So he was going so quickly, it never shifted into park, it shifted into reverse, and the car starts rolling back. So the door was open, and what happened, he hyperextended the door onto another vehicle. So it bent the door back, it messed up the interior leather on the door panel of the Lexus, it damaged the fender, it damaged the back bumper also when he was backing up, and of course he damages the Honda Pilot that was just purchased, and I think had less than 50 miles on it. It was a lady's birthday. Just everything was all bad in that particular case, but even though all that was going on, we were able to get everything fixed. I was pretty shocked. The Lexus was pretty expensive. I think it was close to $12,000 to get everything fixed, including a new door, new interior panel, new front new front fender, Rear quarter panel they repaired, and the back bumper and the back tail light. So everything total was about $12,000 for a simple accident. The other car, the Honda Pilot, I think totaled maybe $1,200 just to resurface the front bumper and maybe the headlight. I'm not sure if the headlight was involved. But these are silly, stupid, bonehead things that can be prevented, but the valet was just going too quickly. And when I called him out on it, he actually got offended and ended up quitting the company. So that's kind of something to say about it, but these are the things that happen in our industry.